Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let me say something that might sting a little. The day she stops arguing with you, the day she goes quiet, that's not peace. That's the moment she's emotionally packing her bags. And the worst part, most men don't even notice until she's already gone. If you've ever been taken for granted, overlooked, slowly replaced by her distractions, her friends, her phone, her busy schedule, then listen closely. Because today I'm going to show you how women start missing the man they once overlooked, and why most men do everything wrong at that exact moment. Before we go deeper, subscribe and like this video. Not for me, for you. Because what we talk about here isn't surface-level dating advice. It's psychological reality, and once you understand it, you can never unsee it. Here's the truth no one tells you. Women rarely miss a man who is constantly available. They rarely miss the man who keeps explaining himself, over-giving, over-texting, over-fixing. When you become predictable in your pursuit, you slowly erase the emotional tension that made her feel something in the first place. Attraction thrives on emotional contrast, presence and absence, certainty and mystery, warmth and restraint. When she took you for granted, it wasn't always because you weren't good enough. Often it's because you became too certain, too safe, too consistently there, without requiring her emotional investment. Human psychology values what feels scarce, not what feels guaranteed. When you were always the one initiating, reassuring, planning, checking in, she unconsciously adjusted to receiving, and the brain adapts quickly to comfort. What was once exciting becomes normal. What was once appreciated becomes expected, and expected things are rarely cherished. The shift begins the moment you stop trying to convince her of your value and start embodying it quietly. When your energy changes, not in anger, not in revenge, but in calm detachment, her nervous system notices. The pattern she relied on is disrupted. The validation she expected becomes uncertain, and uncertainty is where missing begins. Because now she has space to feel your absence, and absence is the mirror that shows her what your presence actually meant. Here is where most men make the fatal mistake. The moment they feel her pulling away, they lean in harder, more texts, longer explanations, emotional speeches about loyalty, about effort, about how much they care. They believe love is proven through persistence. But psychologically, over-pursuit in the face of distance doesn't create longing, it creates pressure. When a woman starts taking you for granted, she has already unconsciously placed you in a secure category in her mind. You are the constant, the reliable one, the emotional safety net. And while safety is beautiful in long-term love, it does not create urgency. Urgency is what creates missing. Think about this carefully. The human brain is wired to respond to loss more intensely than to gain. When something we assumed would always be there suddenly shifts, dopamine drops, curiosity rises, anxiety activates, attention sharpens. If you keep showing up exactly the same way after she withdraws, her brain experiences no loss. There is no contrast, no emotional gap, nothing to process. But when your behavior changes in a grounded, self-respecting way, not cold, not dramatic, just subtly unavailable, something happens. She starts noticing the silence where your reassurance used to be. She notices the space where your attention once flowed automatically. And here is the key. You are not punishing her. You are recentering yourself. Women start missing the man they took for granted when he stops orbiting around them and begins orbiting around his own purpose. When you redirect energy into your goals, your body language shifts, your tone shifts, your responsiveness shifts. You are no longer reacting to her mood. You are anchored in your own. That emotional independence creates intrigue. She begins to ask quiet questions in her mind. Why isn't he reaching out like before? Is he losing interest? Is he focusing on someone else? Did I misjudge his value? And those questions create the very thing she didn't feel before. Emotional movement. Missing doesn't start with dramatic gestures. It starts with emotional recalibration. The man who is secure enough to step back without bitterness becomes unforgettable because now she has to move toward you. And people always value what they have to move toward more than what constantly moves toward them. Now let's get brutally honest about what's really happening in her mind. Most men think women miss them because of words, apologies, or gifts. That's a fairy tale. Women miss a man because of how he made them feel, not in the moment, but in the gap he leaves. Think about it. When you were always available, always reassuring, always adjusting to her moods, she never had to notice you. She didn't have to think, reflect, or feel the absence of your energy. She simply expected it. And expectation kills desire faster than betrayal ever could. Here's the psychological shift. When a man who was once predictable suddenly recalibrates, he stops answering instantly. He focuses on his goals. He cultivates quiet confidence. Her brain has to catch up. She starts replaying moments in her mind, how he smiled when she teased him, how he listened without judgment, how his presence once made the world feel smaller and safer. These memories are not random. They're triggers, emotional triggers, and they awaken longing. That longing is what makes her notice how she once took him for granted. Her subconscious begins to weigh absence against presence. And that's the dangerous magic men rarely understand. Women crave what they can't have, not what they always do have. This is where your power lies, not in chasing, not in convincing, not in pleading, but in creating the space for her to recognize the value she lost. And here's the truth. If you overcompensate, if you act needy, if you explain yourself, the gap disappears. You teach her that she can still rely on your availability, and the spell is broken. Instead, embody self-respect. Focus on your life, your ambitions, your inner growth. Be present for her occasionally. Yes, but on your terms. Subtle, composed, mysterious, never frantic. Your absence will speak louder than words ever could. And as she notices your distance, your calm independence, she begins to feel that vacuum. She starts missing the emotional weight you carried effortlessly. She begins replaying moments she took for granted. She starts realizing, maybe too late, that you were not just any man. You were the man who grounded her world, who gave without expectation, who made her feel something most men cannot. This is the invisible psychology of missing. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's potent, and it's the one thing men almost never wield correctly. When you master this, you become unforgettable, not because of what you say, but because of what you stop doing and what you start silently embodying. Here's a truth most men will never admit. She doesn't miss you because you begged for attention. She misses you because you once made her feel seen, respected, and understood. And when that energy disappears, the emptiness hits harder than words ever could. Think about it. When you were constantly available, always accommodating, always bending to her schedule or moods, she didn't notice the weight of your presence. You became invisible in the most dangerous way possible. You became expected, and expectation is the silent killer of desire. Women are wired to respond to emotional contrast, highs and lows, presence and absence. The man who fades slightly without anger or drama triggers her mind in ways she cannot consciously control. She starts replaying your laughter, your voice, the calm confidence in your gestures. She begins to feel what she ignored. This is when missing begins. Not immediately, not overnight, but in the subtle shifts she perceives without realizing it. Every unreturned text, every quiet evening you focus on yourself, every moment you don't orbit her world, it chips away at the sense of certainty she had, and her mind starts to wander. Why isn't he reaching out? Did I misjudge him? I never realized how much he did for me. It's in this vacuum that longing grows. She starts comparing the emotional investment she gave to the attention she receives now, and the imbalance becomes unbearable. Your absence becomes a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. They show her exactly what she lost. But here's the nuance. Missing isn't about punishment. It's about emotional recalibration. If you withdraw with resentment, anger, or frustration, she notices the energy shift, but it triggers defensiveness, not longing. The goal is not to guilt her. It's to create space for her to process what your presence truly meant. The man who understands this embodies self-respect, purpose, and emotional independence. He doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he simply recalibrates his energy, focuses on his life, and lets her mind do the work. And here's the irony. The moment you stop trying to fix her perception, she begins to feel the truth of your value. She starts missing the consistency, the stability, the unspoken emotional strength she once relied on but never acknowledged. That's the silent, psychologically powerful moment when women start longing for the man they took for granted, a man who became unforgettable, not because of what he said, but because of the emotional gap he left behind. Let's get even deeper. because this is where most men fail completely without even realizing it. Missing doesn't happen because you remind her of your value. Missing happens because you stop confirming it for her. Every text, every call, every gesture that reassures her, "I'm here," chips away at her subconscious awareness of what you truly mean to her. Think about it. When she took you for granted, she didn't see the effort behind your patience, the calm behind your composure, the unwavering support you gave without expectation. That effort became background noise. She no longer had to work to notice your value. And when attention is effortless for her to receive, it loses power. But the human mind is wired to notice absence, far more than presence. That's the secret. The man who steps back, not out of anger but out of respect for himself, suddenly becomes a puzzle, a challenge, an emotional anomaly. And women are naturally drawn to anomalies. They activate curiosity, reflection, and longing. Here's the critical moment. Your shift doesn't need to be dramatic. No screaming, no ultimatums, no passive-aggressive displays. It's subtle, it's controlled, it's consistent in its unpredictability. You are present, but not at her disposal. You respond, but not on demand. You exist, but your life moves with or without her reaction. And in that subtle shift, the psychology of missing begins to ignite. She starts noticing details she overlooked before. The way you laughed at something silly. The way your confidence never wavered, even when she doubted herself. The way you listened without judgment, while everyone else demanded performance. Those small memories, combined with the new space you've created, begin to form a tension in her mind. She unconsciously asks, why does it feel different now? Why does he seem farther away, but stronger? And in that tension, longing grows. This is where men can completely transform the dynamic. By reclaiming their emotional independence, by prioritizing themselves, by radiating grounded energy, they trigger an invisible magnetism. Women start to crave not just your presence, but the way your presence made them feel. And here's the ultimate paradox. The less you chase, the more she reflects. The less you plead, the more she evaluates. The less you explain, the more she realizes. This is the hidden psychology most men never learn. And the moment you understand it, you stop being just another man in her life. You become unforgettable. Because longing isn't about words. It's about presence, absence, and the emotional gap only you can create. Now let's expose a truth most men never dare to face. She doesn't miss your actions as much as she misses your energy. Your words, gifts, or even affection are fleeting. What lingers, what she craves when she starts feeling the void, is the emotional stability, the quiet confidence, and the magnetism you carried effortlessly. That's what she took for granted. When a woman overlooks a man, it's not always because she doesn't care. Often, it's because she has grown accustomed to your energy being there on demand. The man who always reassured her, always accommodated her, always responded to her emotional fluctuations, he became predictable. Predictability is comfortable, but it's also invisible, and invisibility kills longing. This is where emotional recalibration works its magic. When you shift your energy from constant availability to composed independence, she feels it even before she consciously notices. There's a subtle tension in her mind, a little pull she can't explain. Your absence is no longer dramatic. It's just a space she feels, a space that reflects everything she once ignored. And here's what most men completely miss. Missing starts when you stop reacting to her, not coldly, not angrily, but neutrally. You stop validating insecurities, you stop chasing attention, and you stop trying to prove your worth. Your energy becomes self-contained. You are anchored in your own life. That shift triggers an unconscious reflection in her mind. She begins replaying moments she underestimated, how patient you were when everyone else would have left, how steady your confidence remained when chaos surrounded her, how your presence made her feel safe yet alive at the same time. She starts noticing contrasts between what she assumed and what she actually experienced. And this is when longing begins to brew. The small, quiet details you carried effortlessly, the things you never highlighted, now become the metrics of value in her mind. Every memory she ignored becomes a point of reflection. Every laugh, every gesture, every moment of calm influence now carries weight. The man who understands this doesn't overcompensate. He doesn't flood her with messages or explanations. He simply embodies his worth quietly, allowing absence to speak louder than any word ever could. Because psychology is simple but unforgiving. Humans crave what requires effort or reflection. The man she once overlooked becomes the man she starts noticing, not because of what he does, but because of the emotional gap he leaves. And once that gap exists, once she begins to feel it, the door to her longing opens, but only if you maintain your composure, your independence, and your silent value. Here's the unspoken reality most men never understand. Women don't miss you in the same way you miss them. They don't dwell on absence immediately. Missing is gradual, a creeping awareness that starts subtly, almost imperceptibly, and then builds until it becomes a constant undercurrent in her mind. And it all begins with emotional contrast. When a man stops validating her constantly, stops orbiting her world, stops being the predictable source of attention and reassurance, her brain experiences a vacuum. That vacuum is powerful. It forces reflection, it forces awareness, and most importantly, it forces feelings she may have suppressed, ignored, or never recognized before. The subtlety is everything. This isn't about ignoring her out of spite. It's not about punishing her or manipulating her emotions. It's about reclaiming your energy and letting your absence create space for her to feel what she previously took for granted. You are no longer a reactive participant in her emotional world. You are anchored in your own, and in that anchored state, something fascinating happens. She starts to notice the little things she overlooked. The way your presence once brought stability to chaos. The way your calmness allowed her to feel safe enough to open up. Effortlessly. She starts to miss the balance, the calm, and the magnetic presence she once took for granted. The gap between your energy then and your energy now is where the longing lives. Mastering this subtle psychology turns absence into power, invisibility into intrigue, and being overlooked into being unforgettable. It's quiet, but it's devastatingly effective, and it's the moment women start missing the men they once assumed would always be there. Now let's seal this truth that most men never grasp. Missing is not about chasing. It's about becoming the man whose presence leaves a permanent imprint, even when he steps back. It's about emotional resonance, not proximity. When she starts to feel the space you once filled effortlessly, she begins to see your true value, and it hits harder than any argument, any apology, or any grand gesture ever could. This works because human attachment is not built on words alone. It's built on emotional experience. She remembers how it felt to be in your orbit, the security, the calm, the magnetism, the energy that made her feel both alive and understood. And when that energy quietly withdraws, she doesn't just notice it, she feels it in her bones. The critical piece men miss is consistency in your recalibration. You cannot fluctuate between needy pursuit and self-respecting distance. She will detect insecurity, desperation, or overcompensation immediately, and the spell breaks. Instead, the most powerful move is quiet, composed, unwavering independence. You live your life fully, and she watches from the margins. And that observation creates reflection, which creates longing. She starts asking questions in her mind she never dared to ask before. Did I ever truly appreciate him? Was I too blind to see what he gave me? Am I losing something I can't replace? And these questions carry more weight than any argument ever could. They trigger the same chemistry as desire, a tension between memory and absence, between certainty and uncertainty. When you maintain this grounded energy, your value grows silently. You no longer have to convince her. She begins to internalize it. Missing is no longer a reaction to words or actions. It's a natural response to the emotional gap you created by embodying self-respect and independence. Here's the paradox. The more you focus on yourself, your growth, your purpose, your inner life, the more she reflects on what she lost. The more you stop orbiting her world and start mastering yours, the more unforgettable you become. Your absence becomes your presence in her mind. Remember this, women start missing the men they took for granted, not because of what they said, not because of what they did, but because of the energy they embodied, the consistency they maintained, and the space they created for reflection. That is the invisible, psychological power that transforms ordinary men into unforgettable forces in her life. And when you truly understand this, you no longer chase, you no longer plead, you simply exist fully, and she will start missing you in ways she never imagined possible.